Hi everyone. Hi Mom. I've been off the air for a while. I've had a few comments from people. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I'm still doing tutorials and creating. So I thought I would take a break from the book, the journal that I'm working on right now. It is a rather large one, so it's taking me quite a while to do it. I'm not a fast crafter. So I thought instead of waiting till it was done, I would just do a short tips, tricks, and tools for you since that's been requested. So I was working on the book and I was doing these envelope tucks. And a lot of people use these and I really love the idea of them. And I found these envelopes in my husband's office. I think I mentioned that before. Hang on one second. I'm going to grab a ruler here just so you know how big the envelope's. Rather large. It's almost 9 inches by 5 3/4. So it's really quite a large one, which means when you fold it in half, you get quite a nice little tuck area. So I thought I'd show you what I've done here for this. This is going in the book that I'm working on right now. So you can see that this makes a really lovely tuck. Now, if you guys could see my desk right now, you'd be horrified. It's major messy. So it makes a nice tuck, right? Good size. This here is like 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So, you know, it's a ATC size pretty much. Fits in there nice. You've actually got more room. And I'm putting 3 of them in there. So I thought, since I've been working on them and, you know, discovered a few different things that might be helpful to you who are wanting to use something like this. So you can see, obviously, I tea stained it first. Again, I'm doing a vintage journal. Big surprise. But I wanted to tea dye them. Now, when you tea dye them, it does make it rather stiff. I don't know why that is, but it does. So when you're folding it in half, it's a good idea to use a scoreboard if you can, you know, to score down before you fold it, just to help with cracking or anything like that. You might want to lightly spritz it with water before you do that, or if you don't have a scoreboard, lightly spritz it with water, then fold it in half, and then you won't, you know, it'll bend easier. Okay, so what I've done here is I've used the flap as my tuck, and then on the inside I've folded down after I've cut the top off, folded it down to make another tuck spot. Now you can see I didn't glue down the middle because this will be sewn. So there's no reason to glue that down. Plus it adds more stress to the paper because when it's folded, if it's glued, you're not getting the give and you won't like the way it lays. The other trick that I found is when you do cut the top off here and you want to do this part, if you angle it a little bit, you don't get the bulk, you don't get the overlap, and it fits better in your journal. I did the same thing on the other side as well, just because I didn't want it hanging over the edge. So I thought I'd go ahead and just sort of do one with you, since this one's pretty much done. The other thing I did was stamp. Now it's a little harder to stamp on things that are thick like this. So I have this, which I butchered from, I have a big foam pad. It's We Are Memory Keepers. And it's the piercing mat. It's just a thick piece of foam. You can use any thick piece of foam. Some people use a mouse pad. I don't think that's thick enough personally, unless you use one on top of the other. But I did cut this so that I could use it in things like this and it would fit inside. Now the reason you want to do that is so that the foam allows your image to reach the little spots. So when you're pushing it down, the foam is filling up the spots. So you get all of your ink on what you're doing. If you just did it flat, you would have a lot of missing spots. So that's one tip. Okay, so let's put that aside. And I wanted to show you what I do here. So I just simply cut the bottom of the envelope And I just take a hair off. You don't need to take a lot, just unless of course you want it smaller. Just a little bit like that. Okay, so now you've got this going on, okay? Now, the other pocket I wanted to show you that I've already done this envelope. Sorry, it's kind of a mess here. Okay, so this one I actually lined with some of the paper so that you could really see, because what I did was I folded it the wrong way, and you could, these were coming apart. So I thought, well, I'll just cover it with paper. I mean, there's always a fix, right? So that's the second one that I did. This one's pretty simple. I'm getting a little more elaborate each one that I go. Hang on, I need to put that back or I'll forget where I took it from. Okay, there. Now, I have my fold line, and you're going to need a bone folder so that you can get a nice crease on it. And of course it doesn't need to be perfect, but get a nice crease. And the reason I want that is I want to see where I'm going to cut. Now, the reason I cut this flap is, again, it's going to add bulk. I don't want the bulk, and I don't want the, when you fold it, it's going to pop like that if you don't cut down the center here. So then just go ahead and take a pair of scissors, and you can angle it now or angle it after, it doesn't matter. And again, doesn't need to be perfect, just open it up right to the seam. And then I just take a little bit off. Just a tiny bit. It's easier to take away than it is to add. So I'm going to do it this way. Take that away. Okay, so you see there is a bit here, and when it's folded, now it's not going to hit that seam. You can see that there's not much space by the time you start folding it over. Now, I want this side to have my fold down. And see, I did it again. No, I didn't. That's fine. And I guess I don't measure. You can measure if you're, you know, really OCD. I'm trying to ignore my OCD. So I'm guessing, and I'm just going to cut down the center as far as I think I want the fold over to be. And then I'm going to do the same on the side. And on the side. Yeah, close enough. Okay. So now what you want to do is you want to fold this down. And if it's not enough, you can just, you know, go ahead and clip it a little more. So that's about even, somewhat. Good enough. It's a little off, but whatever. It's going to be covered. And then same with this side. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be equal to this either, because one will be on one side of the book and one will be on the other. So if it's not perfect, no one's going to know. And then I just simply do the same thing. I angle off the edges here, just a little. Don't have to do a ton. And on this side as well. I hope this is all on camera. Okay, take that off. And that. And that one. Okay, just like that. Okay, now it's up to you whether you leave the flaps as flaps. I personally like it down. Flatten it out a little bit, so I'll add a little glue. And use your bone folder to spread out your glue. can see I don't use a ton. Okay. So that, in essence, is a pocket. Now, I only put a little bit of glue on this edge because I don't want it to interfere with when I start to stitch it in. You can do both sides if you want, but I don't mind a little side tuck. And depending on what you want to add onto this, you know, it'll stick it down anyways. Okay, so I've cut up some pieces. I've been using this really pretty lace from Sheila, I think. Shirley? Sorry. It's vintage looking to me, so I plan on using that somewhere on here. Similar to, you know, what I've already done. And I want it to hang down like that because this is way shorter than my actual page, so it won't stick outside the book because this will be somewhere in the middle. And then I want color. So I've pulled out a few things. This is seam binding that I had dyed a long time ago, and it's actually kind of the right color. So I could add this, glue it down a little bit, and have a little bit of texture, or I could spray this. This is a bit dark compared to what I want. And I have no idea what it'll look like sprayed, so let's spray it, find out. That's the fun thing about crafting is if you don't like it, you know, don't use it, but you'll use it somewhere else. And I'm just going to use a little bit of my old Steampunk Sepia. I don't think there's even any glitter left in it. I've just kept adding water to it, but I wanted to use all of it up. And now it's just kind of a brown color. So the only thing about dyeing this kind of thing is it's nylon. So when you use your heat gun, it's going to melt if you're not careful. So I'm going to make noise here just to dry it up a little bit. I'm going to hold it up pretty high so the heat's not too far down. Okay, it's not dry, but I'm going to pull it out of the box. This is just an old pizza box, not a used one. I went to the pizza parlor and they sold me one, so works great for spraying. And let's get that out of the way. I'm just going to hit it again. Another tip for you is when you have ribbons that you've got wound up or wrapped up and you know you want them flat, this is what you do. Use this. And it acts like an iron. And it just flattens out your ribbon. Okay. I think that's fairly dry. So you can, I don't know if you can tell, but it is slightly browner. And it's not quite as bright. And let's see if I like that. Or if I'm thinking the swirl pattern just isn't screaming vintage to me, which is a good possibility. Yeah. Got a little cheesecloth here too. I thought I might add a little piece of this. This is like a really great way to use up all those little bits and pieces you have in a bowl, like me. A little cheesecloth here. And then I have these really cute little images that I printed on photo paper. And they're Etsy downloads. Okay. I do want to put this on here. That does pull out the green in that, but I'm still thinking I like the seam binding better. Let's see what happens here. I hope the color in the video is good because it's really dull here today. We've had some really great weather, but the last couple days not so good. Oh, I like that better. So we'll use that. We'll use some cheesecloth. Garbage. I also have some of this ribbon, but I thought, a little dull. And I want to keep it as flat as I can because there will be journaling over top. So, okay, let's stick this down first because I know I am using that. So when I'm doing lace, I just try and put the glue on the more solid areas of the lace. And again, it's Aleene's Tacky Glue, which I really like. I know there's another glue. I haven't tried it yet. My craft store now carries it. Best Ever Glue, and I know a lot of people use it and swear by it. I haven't had the opportunity to use it yet. So when I need glue, that might be my next purchase, just so that I can let you know what I think. Okay. Oh, heavens. Okay, here we go. And again, doesn't really have to be centered. Now, another tip, just take some dry paper towel. Use that to push down your lace so that you're not getting glue all over your fingers. Okay, good enough. And then I want to add some of this, so let's randomly cut that one. And I'm going to use the glue right about here, I think. So now, of course, the glue will push through the lace so that my seam binding will stick on there. And like I said, I don't really want it flat. Kind of want it with a little bit of texture look to it. Trim that out. Okay. Then I am going to add a little bit of this. I don't know if I want that much. Let's take some of that away. Add a little bit there. Now, of course, the glue will just tack it down. The image that I put over top will be what actually holds it in. Okay. And I want a little bit of eyelash trim as well. So you can see how short I made this. So that's as far as I've cut. This is really small. And it tends to curl, which is exactly what I want. That way you only need one piece and you get it all over. So that's going to go there. Now you want to make sure, especially when you're using photo paper, that you have no glue on your fingertips because it will stick to your photo paper. Now this I want to ink, and I'm going to use the archival ink on it because it is a shiny paper. and you don't want it to smear. So archival will be permanent. The other trick I wanted to show you is, if you've noticed, my tool, the foam pad is off the edge. Now the reason I do that, what can I show you? Let's take, say, a flower. I've sprayed up a whole bunch of paper flowers. If you have your foam hanging over the edge, you're going to be able to get into tighter spots, like dips here. Whereas if it's hard and square, you're not going to be able to fit into your little dips and grooves. So I always keep mine sort of hanging over the edge a little bit, just like that, and then you get everywhere you need to get. Hope that makes sense. All right, now I have to turn this up facing me, sorry you guys, so I can see what I'm doing. Do I want it off to the side, right in the middle? I like it a little bit angled so I can see some of that and some of that. Yep, like that. Okay, so I'm just going to load it up with glue. You can use double-sided tape if you want. Glue's cheaper, so I use glue, and it works just as well. Okay, I want it on a little bit of an angle, and flip it over and then rub. Make sure your craft mat is nice and clean though. Okay, so that's how I do that. Simple, simple. And the same thing on this side, you know, I'm going to add some lace and I'm going to layer some color, and same deal. You can use paper, you don't have to use lace, whatever you have. Just use up little bits and pieces of things. And I think that's all I wanted to share with you today. Other than, I don't know if you're like me and have mounds of these. Yes, mounds and mounds of paper flowers. And usually it's never the color you're looking for. You can spray them. I will show you. They're over here. So there's one I sprayed. And I sprayed the outside one on this, and I sprayed the inside one on this. This was peach, and this was white with green writing on it. So it will cover, you will get a little different color than what's in your bottle, but it works just great. The other tip is you need to put it, well, you want to put a center in. So instead of using something bulky, now I did use some homemade enamel dots on some of the flowers, but this one I just used stickles. So you don't get the huge dimension, but you get a pretty center. You know, just have some stickles or you know, whatever glitter glue that you have in basic colors. This one here is called Platinum. So it gives it sort of a vintage center look. I don't know. It's similar to a brown. I don't know why it's called Platinum, but it has a brown tone to it with a little bit of silver mixed in there. So those are going to be going on this. It's just the stickles are a little wet, so I didn't want to stick them on there. So that's going to be on there. And that's going to be on there. And so that'll finish off, you know, the bottom. So that's what I'll do again on this envelope, is I will probably use another doily. And I did edge them with some embossing powder, and it is called Angel Wings Peacock by Lindy's. So it's very sheer, but it has a hint of a turquoise blue in it. And I just really wanted something that would sparkle up the edges of that. And they're not really tuck. I did leave them open, but they're not really meant for a tuck space. You could leave it right open. This is an old die cut that I had in my box, and again, I sprayed it to get the color that I wanted. Cut it in half, and there you go. So if I had just glued the bottom, you would have a nice tuck spot there. But I have tons of tuck spots in this journal, so I didn't feel I needed it. Okay, that's what I have to share with you guys. And again, if you don't like kind of this look, you can always glue another piece of paper over the top, you know, to just cover up the little side flaps, or just glue it down better so it doesn't really show as much. Okay, thanks for watching, you guys. Bye.